This week's Parsha, Parsha's Balak, in Perich of Daled, Pasuk to Zayin, quotes V'yodea das Elyon. It's referring to Bilam, who Bilam had a tremendous level of prophecy. As many Rishon, he had tremendous potential, but unfortunately his midos ra, his bad characteristic traits, brought him down. But he had tremendous nevuah. He was able to know the das elyon. And the Gemara in Brachas tells us, on Dav Zayin, that the kocho shabilam haya shayodea l'chaven es hasha, that the Torah tells us, Kel Zoim b'chol yom, God gets angry every day, for a minute every day, a second every day. And Bilam was able to mechaven the shah, was able to figure out at that moment. How he knew is a whole discussion in the Gemara with the rooster. We could figure it out later. But Bilam was able to figure out when God was angry, and he was going to give the curse when he was angry. So we know Bilam had a tremendous level of nevuah. And in fact, as the Torah tells us that in Parashas Zos HaBracha, when it talks about the death of Moshe Rabbeinu and the greatness of Moshe, so it says, "V'lo kam navi od b'Yisrael k'Moshe, asher yidol Hashem panam upanam." There's no other navi among the Jewish people that was on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. That we know Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy was unique. That all the other prophets, they saw things in a dream, they were sleeping, they were spaced out, they didn't have a clear vision. But Moshe Rabbeinu, panam o panam, Moshe Rabbeinu, whatever that means exactly, spoke to HaKadosh Baruch Hu face to face. He was awake. In fact, that's how Rabbi Alpert explained in the beginning of Vayera, when it talks about Avram Avinu in the middle of speaking to God, went ahead and took care of the three strangers. So the Gemara learns out from that incident, Gedola hachnasas archem b'kabalas pnei hashchina. Greater is entertaining guests than it is speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, speaking to God. So we learned out from Avram Avinu. But how did Avram know it? It seems chutzpah. In the middle of talking to God, you put God on hold and say, "I'll be back later." How did Avram Avinu know it? So Rav Alpert explained, because God told him. Well, God didn't actually tell him in words, but God showed him. How do we see that? Because, as we pointed out, only Moshe Rabbeinu had a clear prophecy. All the other prophets were on a lower level. And therefore, usually when Avram was in the middle of a prophecy, speaking with God, he was all blacked out. He really couldn't see anything else. It was a total focus on that. And all of a sudden, in the middle of his blackout session with God, he sees a picture of three people coming towards him. So Avram says to himself, like, why is it different now? Why is God showing me people? It must mean if he's showing me these three people, he wants me to take care of them. So Avram learned it from God that greater is the mitzvah of hachnasas archem, entertaining guests, than it is kabbalas pnei hashchina, accepting the divine presence. So we see that Moshe Rabbeinu had the highest level of nevuah, but the pasuk says, "Lo kam navi o b'Yisrael," but the Gemara says about umas ha'olam kam. But among the non-Jews, someone perhaps is, or close to, as you're going to get to Moshe Rabbeinu, and that was Bilam. And as always, you always have to balance the playing field. If you could have a tzaddik that could do a miracle, then you also have to have a rasha, a wicked person, because you have to keep the bechira chavshas, free choice, balanced, that if you can't make it more tilted to one side. And that's why Bilam was the one picked, but his midos ras, his bad midos, messed him over, and he ended up being punished. That's Bilam ben Ba'ar hargu b'charav. And we know Bilam ben Ba'ar was killed at the end. Actually, that's a medrash, because the medrash says that there were 3 advisors to Paro. When Paro said, we have a Jewish problem, the Jews are growing, there are too many, what should we do? So Paro said, let's kill the Jews, what do you think? So Bilam said, yeah, let's kill the Jews. Yisro ran away to Midian, and Eov, the 3rd advisor, just sat there silently. And the Gemara tells us in Sota that each of them were rewarded and punished Mida keneged Mida, corresponding to what they did. So I understand Bilam, he said kill the Jews, so that's why we see Bilam ben Ba'or Hargu Bachar, Bilam was killed. I understand Yisro gave up a prominent position, so he got one, his kids became descendants, his descendants became on the basin. But Eov, he was silent. Why should he have a life of suffering? So the Brisker Rav explains, because he says, well, or we could give a mashal, that when a person's in a shower and all of a sudden the water gets hot and your back is burning, so you scream, ah, and you run out. So let me ask you something, does screaming take away the burn on your back? No. So why do you scream? Because if it hurts, you scream. So too, the Brisker Rav says that the fact that Eov was able to sit there quietly and while other Jews were suffering was enough that he warranted a life of suffering, because if you don't feel the pain of other Jews, then you're guilty as well. And in fact, that's why we know when you make a protest, there are 2 basic reasons to make a machat, to protest something. One is obviously you're going for a result. Whatever you're protesting against, you want to try to stop the evil or the bad things that are happening. And that's obviously the goal of it. However, even if you're not successful with the end result, nevertheless, doesn't mean you should make a machat, doesn't mean you should make a protest, because it's something else. If you have, for your own sake, ben adam le'atzmo, you have to make a protest against evil, in order you don't become desensitized to it. That's why we're taught at a young age that when we go to Shul and Purim and hear Haman, so we make noises with the Grager to show Ubi'arta harami kerbecha, that we have to go ahead and uproot the evil. So Bilam was later killed. But however, Bilam was at great prophecy, V'yodea das elyon. And as the Gemara explained, he was able to mechaven the Shah, Kel zoam b'chol yom. God gets angry every day, and he was able to mechaven the Shah, and he wanted to find his time to curse Klal Yisrael. So Tosfos in Brachas is an interesting question. Tosfos asks, Ma haya yachol lomar berega? What kind of curse could Bilam do in a second? He only had a millisecond to do it. So what could he have said in that short period? So one answer in Tosfos is, Sharat Salomer Kalem. Kalem, destroy them. One word, Kalem, God would get the idea, and therefore he'd destroy Klal Yisrael, destroy the Jewish people. In fact, we have that in a positive sense. There's a tradition we have that at every bris milah, Eliyahu Hanavi comes in. He comes down to heal the child who just had the circumcision, the milah. So there's a tradition that when Eliyahu's down at every bris, and there's a tradition that you could ask for anything you want during a certain period. It's not exactly clear the second, whether it's the moment before the baby's crying, right around there. So whenever the moment is, so there's a tradition to pray. So the question is, what are you going to pray for? How could you fit so much in a second? Again, to the post-Gemara, you scream, help. God, help me. And God will figure out what help you need. In fact, maybe it's even better. A lot of times we think what we need, or we think we know what's best for us, but really it may not be. So we just ask God, help us, so therefore God will help us. So it works in the negative way here by Kaleim. God, when Bilam was going to say destroy us, and yet that's what Tosas answers, and what gives Tosas in one of his answers says that all Bilam had to say was Kaleim, destroy Jewish people, and that would have been enough to destroy Klal Yisrael. Tosas, interesting, quotes another answer, which is actually quoted la halacha. Tosas says, he was to begin to curse at that moment. And anything that happens afterwards, the Tosas says that we go basar haskala, that as long as you get to begin the curse in, so therefore as long as you begin on time, everything else follows along. And interesting, there's a discussion among the poskim, but the Aruch HaShulchan writes, based on this Tosfos, the Hochen Achar Haskala. We see from here, Tosfos is giving us, well, according to the first answer, he's just saying, Bilam said this Kaleim, so you can't bring any proof. But from the second Tosfos is saying is, no, as long as you begin at the right time, that's the important thing. We see the Iker is the beginning. The Hochen Achar Hatchala. You go after the beginning. V'em hitchel b'zman tefillah. So Aruch HaShulchan has a tremendous chiddush. He says regarding davening. He says, let's say mincha time, one has to finish by sunset, by shkia. So the Aruch HaShulchan has a tremendous chiddush. He writes, however, so as long as one lichatchila, everyone agrees, you should finish your prayer before the appropriate time, before sunset. But the Aruch HaShulchan writes, we see from this Tosfos, the hitchel b'zman tefillah, mikre tefillah b'zmana. Even though you're finishing after the time, but if you begin at the right time, if you begin at the appropriate time, so it counts that you finished everything. And that's what so we see the Aruch HaShulchan is saying that if Bilam would have began the curse at the appropriate time, even though the curse would have lasted afterwards, so therefore, so too over here, we know we have a principle that the midah tova maruba, that God's good midos outnumbers his bad. So if he's going to do something, if he's going to count a curse as long as you start at the right time, then certainly the post can point out that something was a good thing of tefillah, be'ez ratzon, you begin at the right time, so too you will be able to continue davening. That's a tremendous chiddush that you could, as long as you start in the right zman, you could finish afterwards. This might be true with halacha, but and there might be other sources, but it's not. The poskim, the Aruch HaShulchan seems to paskin this way. Interesting. We'll have to continue tomorrow on this issue, but similarly, some poskim want to bring down this issue could also be dependent on. We just observed Rosh Chodesh yesterday, and so it's the same question whether it's Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos. It happens every Shalosh Chodesh. You begin your meal on Shabbos and you end when Shabbos is over. You begin your meal on Rosh Chodesh and you end your meal after. What do you do in terms of Ritzei or Yalav Yavo? So it's brought down in Siman Kuf Peiches, Hilchos Birchas Hamazon, Haya Ochel V'Yatza Shabbos. If you eat and you end when Shabbos is over, Maskel Shel Shabbos, B'Birchas Hamazon. We mentioned Ritzei Yalav Yavo, because Zazlin and Basar has Chola Suda. So we see that this Tosas is taking la halacha very seriously, and perhaps these halachas of going Basar Haskala is dependent on this. So we'll have to continue tomorrow more on this issue.